Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another edition of Lupus Talks. Again, this is another great episode that we're going to be sharing. We have a special guest on our show today. He's going to be definitely sharing some good information for everybody on in the network in reference to those who are in need of health and, of course, getting some things together and basically having the lifestyle that you want to live. So we have, of course, the dynamic duo, Dr. Calvini Williams and Miss Dolores Olson on as well. And again, I'm just the director here, just showcasing and introducing you to the top leaders here of it and Lupus of Nevada out of North Las Vegas that Dr. Williams has been hosting down for over 20 years now. And she also is an author of a book, Loving God While Living with Lupus, as well as Chris and Christina have lupus. She's an author of two books, going on her third book. And as we continue to showcase and share with the legislation that she had passed in Las Vegas as well for women who've been diagnosed or misdiagnosed with lupus, that the physicians get a chance to really do their due diligence in reference checking and also educating themselves about the autoimmune disease. So with that, I'm going to let you all take it over. Dr. Williams, take it over.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to do an introduction on William Berkowitz. He's going to be talking about navigating insurance with lupus, protecting your family and building retirement income. Living with lupus often means navigating complex health decisions, and insurance can feel just as overwhelming. Join us on Lupus Talks for a special conversation with the licensed insured professional William Berkowitz to explore smart financial protection and retirement planning. In this episode, we will discuss how people living with chronic conditions can approach life insurance options, understanding final expense coverage and protecting your loved ones, how Index Universal Life, IUL strategies can potentially support tax advantage retirement income planning, what to know about premiums, underwriting, and avoiding costly policy mistakes. And here we go. We welcome you, William. You're on.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Calvinia. I appreciate all three of you for inviting me on and allowing me the opportunity to help you educate your community here. It's an awesome thing that you three are really doing, and I respect it greatly and just appreciate the opportunity. So I want to say thank you, first off and foremost. So, the goal I think today and always for you is always to educate and provide real authentic information to your listeners, and so that's my goal as well, to give a real practical insight into how to absolutely navigate life with insurance, or navigate life insurance with lupus, and navigate life with lupus, so without having to add stress or confusion. So honestly, my conversation and expertise goes well beyond insurance, and we might go a little bit even deeper than expected, on just how to overall protect life, family, and our future as a whole. So if anything comes up, while I'm talking, for sure, let's shoot some questions, and I'd love to elaborate. Does that sound good to you guys?
Great.
I love it. Awesome. So the other day, my background is actually more in the health and performance space, and working with people on their energy, longevity, and just overall quality of life, especially individuals in what I call that second curve of life. That's really a big mission of mine is the focus on individuals 40 and up, where we're trying to get more out of life and not allow it to be less and less with time. And what I've realized is we can optimize our body all day long, but if your finances and protection aren't in place, then we're still exposed. And at the end of the day, you can be in the best shape of your life and still, leave your family in a bad position financially, unfortunately. So this just becomes the next extension of my mission, and in helping people not only live better, but overall protect what they're building, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit about me. I've been in the insurance space for a while now, and I have a real niche with individuals that have struggled to get covered for whatever reason in the past, as well as structuring specific policies with an advantage on retirement income as well. So now, kind of the next kind of point here is, like, I've worked with a lot of people in the world of insurance, but then also in the world of health and wellness. So I understand lupus very well. I've had clients in the fitness space that I've dealt with this, and I have had clients, of course, in the insurance space, of course. So, you know, at the end of the day, lupus is unique, and it's because it's not really just a condition, right? It's something that can fluctuate. I understand that, right? And some people, are in remission, and some deal with significant flare-ups. And a lot of that is tied with stress. And so often not understood is lifestyle as well. So when we talk about life insurance, the last thing we want to do is add more stress to the plate. We never want to do that for anybody, but especially somebody who deals with a condition where stress is, detrimental. Um, the goal here isn't pressure, it's peace of mind, right? At the end of the day, with all forms of coverage. So it's not really, my point there really is it's not really so much about policies. It's about making sure that if something happens, that the family and the people that we care most about are not dealing with emotional loss and financial stress at the same time. There's never anything you can do to replace a person or a loved one, but we can protect the people that we care most about, because at the end of the day, the there's nothing we can do to replace what a loved one is to us and our family. But the last thing that personally that I would want for the people that I care most about, um, when they are heartbroken from an unfortunate loss, would be to be financially broken at the same time, right? And so the real purpose is, of course, protection, stability, and of course removing that uncertainty factor there. So a couple things that maybe we should think about in this situation is, before we even talk about, at the end of the day, and I'll front load this, we all know, insurance is not always the most interesting topic, right? But what we care about and what we want out of life and what we build in our families, those are things that we can talk about all day long and have great conversations. So, before we even talk about policies, right, we need to understand situation, right? Because insurance is based on current health status. When it comes to the specific, topic of lupus, right? Whether we're in remission or we're still dealing with flare-ups, the amount of medications we're dealing with, financial responsibilities, budget, all of this, comes into factor when somebody like myself is trying to build the proper policy for somebody to get the best coverage at the best rate. And so it's not about finding a policy, it's about building a strategy that actually fits the life of the individual, right? And so that's the most important thing is really taking a situation and building a protection plan or policy around it. To really simplify that, because this is where most people get overwhelmed. Health. Here are the steps. Here's the process. Health snapshot. Pre-underwriting strategy. So understanding where we are and understanding how carriers are going to, evaluate that strategy. And then understanding where we're going to go now with this current situation, matching with the right carrier and applying correctly, right? In securing the best approval possible. I'm going to talk a little bit about too, the best way to deal with that, because I know those 5 things sound stressful to most people, and to the average individual that has no understanding of, or who doesn't have the proper understanding of insurance, sounds very overwhelming, right? And I'll talk a little bit about that here, where at the end of the day, the biggest mistake people make with life insurance is that they'll go to one agent, get one quote, and assume that's their only option, right? But what most people don't realize is that agent is usually tied to one company, so whether it's the best fit for you or not, that's usually what you're getting shown. It's not the only fit, it's what's getting shown to you, right? And that's just most cases, because most agents are captive and work with one agent, one carrier. And so at the end of the day, now imagine doing that with anything else. Like, imagine your car has an issue, right? You take it to the mechanic, and then you get that first quote and diagnosis, and you just have that mechanic take care of it, right? That's not the way I do things. I don't know about everybody else. If I go and have an issue with my car, 'cause we've all had car troubles. Well, I'm taking it to, the shop down the street, getting a diagnosis, and I'm probably going to take it to 4 or 5 other places and get a quote to save myself the most amount of money on that, but then also to get the best quality, service on my car. So life insurance should absolutely be the same way. The difference is, instead of you going to 4 or 5 places trying to figure it out, is that you need to work with or it's best to work with a professional who can do that for you at the end of the day. So not to like there's definitely benefits to working with captive agents who, probably can take care of, life, health, auto, all of the above. But if we're looking for a specific niche of life insurance, you're going to want to go to somebody who's going to have the options and the ability to find you the best policy, and who does that for, obviously a career path. You know, so that's a little bit about where I come to play. I shop around. I'm actually fortunate enough now to be contracted with 53 of the top carriers in the country. So now we have access, instead of selling insurance and pushing policies on, one specific carrier. What I am doing for people is now working for the individual and not the insurance company. And we're going to find the best option for the individual. And we're going to make sure that we structure that the best way to fit the specific case and the specific goals. And that's what we need to do in these specific situations. So at the end of the day, it's not about finding a policy, it's about finding the right policy. And that's the most important thing that people don't understand about life insurance. We look at it as, one thing, when realistically, there's lots of different complexities to it that require you to, definitely speak with a professional on that. Any questions so far on anything I've covered? And I know I'm rambling a little bit. No, awesome. I love it. So, all right. Yeah, exactly. So, kind of all that can be pretty confusing, right? And we can go talk about policy types here. But at the end of the day, that it really is about what the agent's job is supposed to do. It really depends on what our goals are. So some people most people are going after life insurance for the protection benefits, God forbid something were to happen. But people also don't realize there's a lot of other ways, and a lot of other methods to utilize life insurance, not just for its after death benefits, but for its living benefits as well. Now, like for example, the two policies that I like to help build for people, are whole life and indexed universal life policies. So usually what we'll do with whole life is with individuals who are specifically looking for coverage based, and really not too concerned about much living benefits. Now they do have some living benefits where we can borrow against cash value being built up, and those are minimal compared to what we can do with an IUL. And then IUL, I'm usually helping people here generally in the probably up to the age of around 50, where this is a policy that will push, that can be flexible. That as far as our premium payments, it's going to be more structured towards building a cash value that's going to, grow and guarantee growth instead of seeing any market loss with that. And then to give you tax advantages there. So for example, the reason why somebody might be looking into an IUL versus a whole life policy is because at the end of the day, an IUL, and it legally cannot lose money, right? It literally cannot. But we're getting a proper death benefit for it, but we're also putting our money in places that it is going to grow, because we're might be funding this a little bit more than a typical policy, but it's because the majority of our premium payments will be going towards an S&P 500 market index. So if we know anything about the market, we know about the S&P 500 and how that is the top 500 companies that we want to invest in, right? Like Google, Apple, Microsoft, those big companies that we know are going to grow with time. Now, a lot of people put structured 401ks and Roth IRAs to put money into the same sort of stock. Now, the problem with that, no, it's a great investment. It always is. But the problem with that is, like any investment, is they go up and they come down, right? And so they fluctuate. At the end of the day, I like to make this analogy. Back in 2022, the market dropped, let's say, around 20%. So the person, for example, the person that's putting their money in the IUL that's tied in with the index has a 0% loss, right? We cannot lose money in the IUL. There is a cap gain, and that's usually around 10 to 12%, but that helps to protect us from market loss. So, for example, in 2022, let's say we have two individuals and we have, let's say, person one and person two. Person one has $100,000 in a 401k that's invested into the S&P 500, right? Now, person two has $100,000, the same amount that's already built up and invested into the IUL. So 2022, the market drops by 100%. Basic math shows us that the 401k, the individual with that sort of investment plan is going to be down to $80,000, right? Losing $20,000. So the person with the IUL, when the market drops 20%, their money's safe. They're still putting it in. It's not growing, but it's not losing, right? So that means that our 100K stays the same. Now, in the following year, when the market jumps back up 10%, the person with the 401k now is building back up and they're at $88,000 now versus the person with the IUL, $110,000 now. So we didn't lose money in the market, but we're able to reap the gains of the improvements of market gain, the benefits of market gain. So those are the difference between, and that's the reason we would really structure an IUL. One is for a very young person who, is looking for life insurance in the cheapest form of it, or for a person who's looking to set up retirement investments as well. So if we can do this in any ways, in the way that the IUL cash value works is that you're building a cash value over time that technically you would take a loan against in the future. Now that loan is interest-free and tax-free. However, we are not required to pay that loan back. It would just then subtract from the death benefit. So in an IUL, we have the option to pay a loan back tax-free and interest-free and maintain a significant death benefit, or minimize the death benefit and be able to take that and put it into whatever we need. Retirement funds, we can always put that into business. I'm actually going to share a really cool story. Has anybody here, or has any of you three heard of how Walt Disney actually funded the first theme park for Disney World? Anybody heard that story? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So he actually took out a loan on his IUL to fund that first theme park. So this was a life insurance policy that he had structured for this purpose, to start the business that he had envisioned, and it has grown to become Disney World. And that started from an index universal life policy. So those are the policies that I definitely help people with most. And then my other niche would be to serve people in an area where it's hard to get served. So in either way, those are two awesome policies to go with, just depending on our goals. If that makes sense. So now to get back on in the topic of how we're structuring insurance around lupus, and like I said, I feel like at the beginning of this call is I'm always going to be transparent with anybody, and especially in education, because it's the biggest and most important part of my job is education. And now lupus does affect underwriting based on the severity, the stability, the medications, but different companies see the same condition different ways, right? So this is exactly why strategy matters. At the end of the day, when somebody works with me or an agent that I affiliate with, and not to say that you can't get the same service elsewhere, right? I just know where my mission is and how I work, and that's all that I speak for. So when somebody works with me, it's not just a transaction, right? It's long-term guidance, because when I work with a client, regardless of what I'm working with them on, right? So with that being said, my background's in health and wellness, fitness, longevity, lifestyle coaching, right? And so you're not just getting life insurance advice, you're getting someone in your corner who understands lifestyle, health, longevity, and of course, exactly how your policy works. So where a lot of people are calling me and talking to me, and I have a lot of questions on insurance, I'm usually asking them, hey, how's life going? What are we up to these days? What are our habits looking like? What are we dealing with? What are we struggling with? Right? Because at the end of the day, it's a long-term relationship and a partnership. And I want to make sure that, we put ourselves in the best position, not only to utilize our policies in the best way that we can, but just to put ourselves in the best position to protect our life, our stability, and our families, and that's at the end of the day my mission and the reason that I do what I do. So Lifestyle is like I've talked about before, and like I'm, educating a lot of people on, is extremely important, specifically with lupus. And I'd love to, I need to really tune into more of these podcasts because I'm very curious about like what we're talking about when it comes to, like, hey, what are the best ways that those that have dealt with this for a long time have seen real success at, dealing with lupus. But in the clients that I've worked with in the fitness world, the biggest thing you can do alongside of, making sure that you're protected and stable, is control the controllables. Because in life, and we all know those people, we all might do it ourselves. Like I'm definitely somebody who does this myself, but a lot of times we stress over things that we can't control. And at the end of the day, we can only control five things in this world. I tell this to all of my clients, regardless of, insurance or fitness and lifestyle. That's our mindset, our movement, our nutrition, our sleep, and our community. We get five things we get to control. That's it, right? So we don't get to control the car that comes down the street, or the hereditary condition, or the the inevitable, right? Because unfortunately, it just isn't. It isn't in our cards there. But when we control the mindset, movement, nutrition, sleep, and community through our daily habits, we are setting ourselves up for the best opportunity to really live the life that we're supposed to live instead of allowing our body to confide in itself. So, your daily habits matter just as much as any policy or protection you can get. It's important to really focus on both. And at the end of the day, it's really about being proactive. And a lot of this world is reactive, where we learn about a condition or we learn about a circumstance, and then we panic about what we need to do now or what has happened. When really, every, and I always say this, it's not about what happens, it's about how you react to it. But if we can be proactive about the potential inevitables, we can potentially limit those or prevent those. So, protecting your family, reducing stress, and having a plan in place. If you've been thinking about this or just don't know where to start, right? Like anybody, I'm gonna post. I can post my, business card and phone number, email, whatever, into whatever the link is here, or any of the of certainly any of the three of you. Calvinia, I've had the pleasure of working with for a little while now. I'm always open to having a conversation and pointing people in the right direction, because the best time to figure things out about life and protection is before you need it, right? And when we wait until we absolutely need it, that is when we shoot ourselves in the foot.
That's right.
So that's
Question.
uh that's the biggest thing that I always try to get across, and at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning of the call, insurance is a very boring topic, but what we care most about in this world never is. And that's just the importance of one, protection, but two, managing our habits and our lifestyle and being proactive, so that we do get the best chance to enjoy, as much time on this planet and world with the people that we
Mhm.
care about as well.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about longevity. Those of us that have lupus and it's been in remission for quite a while, versus those who have lupus or Graves' disease or Hashimoto's, are not in remission. That a big difference in trying to find coverage for them?
So it does actually make it a little bit more difficult. However, like I said, different carriers, will look at the same different condition in different ways. So at that point, it might take a little bit more shopping and research on my end, but of course, that's my job, that's my comfort zone. So it does make it different, but it doesn't make it impossible, and it doesn't have to make it incredibly more expensive. We just might have to do a little bit more due diligence, and by we, I mean me, to find those options. So that's no, it really doesn't become an issue. Where the issue does become, like I said, I'll be completely transparent, is if the lifestyle habits are poor, right? And they require us to take, m numbers and numbers of medications, more than three to four, and to stay on those for a long time, hospital visits, all these sorts of things. This is why I encourage people to be proactive about our health, because if we're not proactive and we're just reactive, then it becomes very difficult when the health condition becomes extremely poor, right?
Hmm. 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 And what about the cremation. I seem to get some time ago some information from Neptune, and they said that cremation was $995. What would you say that covered if people they're sending
Okay,
those out like that? What would you say? Would you know
interesting.
anything about that?
You'll get a lot of like, again, like this is a thing, right? That I'm going to be careful about my comments here, but you'll get a lot of like specific marketing
Mm-hmm.
and basically fish hooks to get people on the hook that might not necessarily be. That's one thing that again, this is a big important thing, and what you guys are doing is so awesome and getting real information out is we have to be skeptical of the information that we receive because, like, for example, like, right, I'm an insurance agent that's licensed in all 50 states, right, and I'm getting marketing material in my mailbox as well, promising $100,000 in coverage for
Mm-hmm.
$5. I should have saved that letter for this conversation. It was just yesterday when it came in for $5 a month, which is obviously completely fraudulent and not real. Or the policy is definitely very. We should be skeptical of that, So at the end of the day, you will see a lot of things. I can't tell you the exact price of cremation, but I can tell you normally we can be comfortable with about $5,000 to $8,000 in coverage to cover that, and hopefully leave a little bit more behind on that. But just to be safe, we would want to overcover and under protect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and would you also say that you should have more coverage besides coverage on the job? You should have, because you never know when you're going to be released from that position. Is that a safe
Great
zone?
question. That's a great question, Calvinia.
Thank
Um,
you.
so the deal with that is like it's like a company car, right? Like you get it and it's nice while you work there, but like anybody, I don't think anybody plans on working. Maybe some people, but most people don't plan on working for a company their entire life. So a lot of people, think that, right? Like, oh, I've got life insurance through my job, right? But what happens 15, 20 years down the line when we don't work there anymore, we're retired, and or maybe sooner, maybe later, and now we have to pay a much higher premium because we waited so long to get life insurance
Mhm,
versus one, the group life coverage isn't even always great, and making sure that we have a personal policy in place that is going to be well structured around our goals, and we're going to get a lot more coverage for our dollar when we put it in at the right timing instead of kind of waiting until we absolutely have to go get it
mhm.
now.
Okay.
Like I said, I've protected people into their 80s, and it's just it's a hard conversation to have because all I want to do is help the person, and I want to make them, I want to make sure they get protection that they need, but they're paying way more than they would pay, like a lot more for a lot less coverage than they would have paid if they
Mhm,
would have just done their due diligence if years
mhm,
earlier.
mhm. And next question. I think that's she keeps asking these questions. Ed,
Keep
what?
going.
Why are these insurance companies jumping over rivers? And I'll explain that with charging those of us that have been with their insurance companies for 50 years, and now they want to charge every anniversary $200, $200, $200. Um, what would be your comments with that in terms
Right.
of?
Yeah, I have some very, very particular thoughts, but I'm going to be careful with the way that I phrase this.
Okay,
Um,
agree.
but yeah, so it is what it is at the end of the day. And Calvinia, I'll be clear with where I am in this world. This is kind of why when I wanted to help jump into this industry, definitely doing my research and looking into the first thing I wanted to think of is I want to work for the best insurance company, right? That's going to provide the best coverage for and actually care for people. And then I realized there different certain carriers are great for certain things and certain carriers are great for others. So this is kind of the reason that I work with so many is so that I can find the right opportunities and the right policies that are going to actually take care of people at the end of the day.
Okay.
Because it's not always about that. It's a numbers game, and it's almost like it's a numbers game for these insurance companies, and they don't, and that's really all I can really put on the topic. Does that make
Okay.
sense? I hope that answered the
That makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? No questions? Well, keep going.
I love it. No, yeah, that was honestly that was really the basis of everything I wanted to really get out is hey, yeah, policies matter, right? But it's about hey, what are the goals and the structure that you would like for them? It's about hey, what do we really need protection for? What matters to us? And knowing the full story. And then and then being able to build these policies around the specific individuals and really satisfying the goals and
Mm-hmm.
what we're looking for. And
Mm-hmm.
like it's not every carrier can most and I will tell you there's not a carrier out there that can protect every individual exactly how they want to be protected. And yeah, it's just a matter about aligning that with the right carrier with the right policy type. But then also about being proactive, making sure that we're getting covered early in life and that we're also able to really be proactive about our habits to put ourselves in the best situation possible to, one, absolutely enjoy that second curve of life, and
Mm-hmm.
and two, make sure that we can get the best bang for our buck in these areas as well too. So habits absolutely matter.
You mentioned retirement planning strategies. Can you give us an
Yes.
example of that?
100%. So that would be the IUL strategy there. And so that would be, for example, like that would be the account that we would structure in retirement if we're really building a retirement income strategy. Because yeah, what we would be doing is we would be able to build a policy that actually has a flexible premium, meaning you can move it up and down as we need to, but we would find a specific amount that would be like completely comfortable, right? We wouldn't want to take any food off the table. And then, obviously emergencies happen. We can lower these policies, or it's,
Mm-hmm.
let's say we're doing a little bit better and we can actually afford to fund it more without taking food off the table, then we can do that as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to minimize a death benefit to where we're still going to get a death benefit, but we're going to minimize it and go with the minimum that we can get
Mm-hmm.
insured for. And
Mm-hmm.
then fund and then put the majority of the premium into a cash value index versus the life insurance, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. And so the cash value S&P index grows. So this is like putting over the course of, 30 to 40 years, this is like putting your money into an account consistently. And again, you have access to it much earlier if you would like to, but allowing that to fund and create an awesome coverage plan, but then to actually be able to take loan from it, to be able to take as far as retirement income. So that's the best bet as far as doing it for retirement income. Now we can take and loan from this a lot earlier, interest free, tax free, and technically we don't even have to pay it back. But if you do pay it back, then the policy stays in force with the same amount of value. So that's what we would do. We would basically put your premium and structure it towards a minimal death benefit and a maximal cash value growth into an index account that is going to grow, but is completely protected from market loss. So we know that the money you're putting aside for retirement is not going down, right? There's not ever a situation that it could go down on, but we know that the S&P 500 market will go up with
Mm-hmm.
time, and we're going to be able to reap the benefits of that as well. So, what we would do in this situation is I would, meet with the person to see if this is something that they could even potentially qualify for, and then
Mm-hmm.
we would build an illustration based on the situation, and then exactly show you how the money would progress and multiply over
Okay. Okay. That's great. Ed, do you have any
time.
questions?
No, it sounds really good what he laid out there, and
Yeah.
I'm so excited that we have somebody that's actually knowledgeable enough to share this information fluently,
Mm-hmm.
so that way all of our listeners and people who are in need of it get a chance to know. And then we'll send out the contact information too, Will, so we can let people know where you are and all of that. And again, since you said you're in all 50 states, that's a plus right there, where you can help
Absolutely.
many of the communities that we serve in to kind of get this information, because a lot of it is misinformation and disinformation. Some people don't know the right way to go. When I used to sell insurance up in Illinois, so I know how that go. But I got everybody off a term and put everybody on whole life,
I
which
love it.
was and
Good man.
so and they was just targeting the black and brown people at that point during the 90s, to get them on these low premiums. And when you outlive the policy, that's it. And then you had to
Waste of money.
requalify to get to renew the policy. So it's a lot of that was going on. And that's the reason why I got in insurance in the first place, because my auntie got taken advantage of when she was paying 2 double premiums. And the guy was pocketing the rest of the money. At that time, we go door to door and collect premiums, in person with the people. But, that was during that period. But really excited that we get a chance to have you back on again to talk a little bit more further in reference to that. Dr. Williams, you can let us know the dates and that. And also, Ms. Olson, you have anything you want to share?
Lord, she's suffering a toothache. Okay.
Hope that tooth gets better, Dolores.
Yeah.
I think I just like to say I've been listening, and it's kind of my mouth was kind of slow right now, and that. But I would like to say, thank you for coming on to the show and sharing this information. And I can't wait for the second information that you give us too.
I love it.
Absolutely. This is awesome. You're awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate
You're
all three of
welcome.
you for having me on, and it's been a pleasure. I always love, going through the educational process and informing anybody that wants to be informed.
That's right. That is what it's all about. Thank you very much, Will. And we'll have you back on again to talk further more about it. We'll be posting your information to our group and everybody online, so that way they can also get in touch with you too if they have any other further questions.
Absolutely, for sure. I really appreciate that as well.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thank
Will.
you guys for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Right. Dr. Williams, any other notes, final thoughts you want to share?
I just hope that people took notes, that they call him up, they ask questions, because if you wait to the last minute and you can't do anything or have anything, those cause problems. There's so many people on the street, Ed, that have their canisters asking for nickels, dimes, quarters, and that's not going to be enough to bury their loved ones. So they should take advantage of this while they can.
Well, we'll have this again posted on the website, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't get a chance to watch this in entirety, we'll also have it on the Facebook page as well as on the YouTube channel. Lupus of Nevada, you can always check it out, the YouTube channel as well as the website, lupusofnevada.org. It is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we look to have others to come in and participate within the community to share as well their ideas and concepts that they may have as well. So we're here to help. We're here to share the information. And next week, we'll be back on again, so you all can take advantage of that. But again, you can always go to the website, lupusofnevada.org. We always post these videos, so that way everybody will get a chance to get the information online on time, and it's up 24/7. It doesn't take a break. It don't sleep, so you get a chance to watch it at any time of the day or night. So, Will, what is your information? We want to get that down for everybody before we go.
Absolutely. 100%. My phone number, I'll just go ahead and give your listeners my personal phone number there, and that is 704-466-2829. If you want to reach out, just let me know. Calling off of Lupus Talks there, and I'd love to have a conversation. A good email for me too is will@WKaneLife. So WKANE Kane Life LIFE.com. WKaneLife. Will@WKaneLife.com. So that's good contact information for me. If you'd like to look me up on social media, I'm at WK Berko BERKO. Short for Berkowitz.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Will, and we definitely will have you back on again and to talk further more about that, because I think we should have that series as we close out this month of March, as we get ready for all of the different things that's coming up. And of course, we have Lupus Awareness Month. It's always in the month of May. So, ladies and gentlemen, you guys can also participate with us for the Lupus Walk, online walk, actually, we're going to be doing, as well as having our physicians on to talk further as well with them and what's really relevant now and what's taking place with the autoimmune disease and those who are suffering from it, and those who have loved ones to suffer from it. How did you handle that? How do you address that with them? I know, like you said, it's everybody, they want to be independent. They don't want help. But if you can give them the space to guide and give them the necessities that they need, that's the blessing right there that can help them continue to live a quality life. And that's what everybody wants to have, is a quality lifestyle today. So with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll keep you guys posted as well as noted. Again, go to our website at lupusofnevada.org. Dr. Williams, any final thoughts?
I just enjoyed the presentation, and I encourage individuals coming on Lupus of Nevada to share their thoughts.
All righty. Mr. Lois, last, I know you can't talk much, but well, I'll just say it for you. You're going to keep moving forward.
That's wrong.
We're going to keep moving forward. All right. So you guys have a blessed day, afternoon, evening. And we'll see you guys again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's always the show time here for Lupus of Nevada, or Lupus Talks with Dr. Calvini Williams and Mr. Lois Ostum. So until then, y'all have a blessed day, and y'all take care now.
Bye.
Bye. All righty. That was nice.